Hello, I'm going to be talking about historical anachronisms which seem to be all the rage recently. A Channel 5 programme about Anne Boleyn was put out not too long ago. Yeah, I'm talking about Henry VIII's second wife, although you might not believe it because according to Channel 5, she looks like this. When in fact there are many portraits of her looking suspiciously like that. I'm also going to be talking about a recent Netflix production, Vikings Valhalla, where the person portraying a Viking warlord takes one step further. This 9th century character looks like this. That, by the way, is only a still. I haven't seen the show, but from that still, if ever I've seen anyone absolutely scared to death of being on a horse, it's that person. I've hardly ever seen anyone that uncomfortable. There's one seriously frightened rider. Okay, but yeah, I'm getting off the subject, aren't I? Now, I'm not talking in this case about, for instance, inserting a black person into a performance for the sake of ethnic diversity, like in the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, where poor old Morgan Freeman, equipped with a telescope, by the way, not invented until the 17th century by a Dutch spectacles maker, but at least that had some historical validity because the Arabs were talking about optics and the nature of light in the 11th century. Unfortunately, it didn't progress beyond that, and certainly it didn't progress to the invention of telescopes. However, Freeman, back to Freeman. Freeman was shoehorned into the film as a character called Azim, and apart from the telescope, it's not an inexcusable piece of ethnic propaganda, although frankly, the reaction of the everyday English peasant to the physical appearance of a black man was certainly not portrayed as it would have been in real life. They were peasants after all, and they hadn't seen anything of that complexion ever before in their lives. And then there's the 13th Warrior, a box office bomb, by the way, which was actually based on a real travelogue by an ambassador for the Abbasid Caliph to the Volga Norsemen in the 10th century. It's a shame, by the way, that the idea didn't just stick to the real memoirs, which were interesting enough. Instead, it took off into a Beowulf-style fantasy and, well, the film has it that the ambassador teaches the chieftain, for instance, how to write in Arabic, which obviously is such an improvement on Nordic runes. No doubt at all about that. Anyway, the point of the movie is that they get to fight a group of people who identify as bears. No, not that sort of bear. That sort of bear. So, to get to the point of this peroration, it turns out that now just creating a semi-fictional character isn't enough. Now it's wholesale replacement. Would you call that cultural inappropriation? Well, I would anyway, because as I said, hot on the heels of Anne Boleyn being portrayed by a black woman in the Channel 5 production, we have Vikings Valhalla, in which a Jarl, that is a chieftain, by the way, that's where the aristocratic rank of Earl comes from. Yeah, but I digress. A real 9th century Jarl called Jarl Haakon is played by a black woman, when the original was, well, certainly a great hairy Norseman who would probably have shrieked like a girl in complete shock the first time he ever saw anyone with a black skin, because in the 9th century there weren't that many about. in Norway. I can promise you that. So, to recap, inventing a character and inserting that character into a story has a legitimate provenance. It's a device that's used all the time, actually, and furnishes a writer the chance to deal, usually satirically, with a detached eye on the peculiarities of our own society. One of the ones with which most of us would be familiar, I suppose, would be Mark Twain's Connecticut Yankee in the Court of King Arthur, which purports to see the medieval world through modern eyes. That is, not accepting it for what it was, but measuring it against our own standards. Until recently, as I said, it was always an amusing device, but it required a proper knowledge of the real history, which could be used for comparison. And as I said, for amusement. But as I said, again, you have to have known the real history and understood that this was a joke. Unfortunately, nowadays, people don't seem to know about history. This isn't a comparison anymore. The only picture they get is of this, which means that our superimposition of modern standards has no perspective anymore, and our outrage at older customs and practices have taken on a deadly seriousness, which results in idiots destroying public monuments, and, as in something like Channel 5, destroying our history. So, until we know history better, in my opinion, taking a real character and superimposing another character on top of it, to the extent that the original character is completely obliterated, that is not good, as they say. It's not legitimate. Although, thinking of it, it could have been worse. At least the actor who played Boleyn is a woman. How long do you think it'll be before someone in Netflix decides that the word queen can be applied in a completely different context? And on that depressing note, I shall remind you that I am Graniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I am also at Graniopteryx on Twitter, Gab and Parler, and when I upload a new video, I let you know on those platforms. By the way, I recently had a talk with a Russian in exile living in New York called Yura Dashevsky, and I put that out on my Twitter account as well, if you happen to want to know about that. All right, well, please share. Oh, sorry, like, share, and make sure your subscription is live. And what else? Yeah, contribute or support this channel if you can. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbow with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share, share, share.